Hey everyone, this is Blake with Ward & Wound, and today we're going to take a look at the Steinhart Nav Beer 2 B-Type, which is a faithful recreation of the German pilot watches distributed in the late 1930s, early 1940s. The original models were designed by a number of German watch manufacturers, including Laco, IWC, Long & Soon, Wempe, and Stawa. As I mentioned, this is a faithful recreation of the Observer's pilot watch, which is distinguished by its internal 12-hour indices. This Steinhart model sells for approximately $400 US shipped, and comes with an ETA 2824-2 movement, sapphire crystal, and has a really nice solid build quality. Alright, so now I want to take a closer look at the dial of the B-Type. So as I mentioned, this is a pretty faithful recreation of the Observer style pilot watch, which is defined by this internal hour ring at the center of the dial. And the general aesthetic of the watch is really really quite clean and sparse and easy to read, which is faithful to the original intended purpose, which is as a pilot's tool. So starting with the outside of the dial, you have minute and second indices with numeral markings every 5 seconds or minutes, depending on how you're reading it. And then moving towards the center of the dial, you have this hour ring, which has a dot at each hour as well as a numeral marking. Now, taking a look back at the original pilot watches distributed in the late 30s, early 40s, some had the dots and some didn't, some just had a clean ring. I happen to prefer the dot style. I think it's a little bit easier to read and adds a little bit more texture to the aesthetic of the dial. Moving to the hands are Roman's sword style hands. The hour is quite squat and lines up really perfectly with the internal hour ring, and then the minute mark hand is actually quite interesting. So it might be a little hard to see in the camera, but so the white center of the hand lines up pretty neatly with the internal hash markings. But if you look at it from an angle, or if you can see the actual blue steel portion of the hand, it lines up with the absolute outer portion of the dial, which is, I think, a pretty nice detail. And then once again, looking at the second hand, it lines up again with the absolute outer ring of the dial, but this time it's the whole sort of white loomed portion of the hand that lines up with the center, with the outer of the dial. So it really draws your eye to the outside of the dial when you're reading the watch. Alright, so I just want to speak briefly about the Lume on the B-Type. I think the way they implemented it is pretty interesting. So there's C1 luminova throughout the dial, and what's actually sort of lit up with the Lume is the outside minute and second indices are all lit, the hash markers, and then the numerals are lit every 10 minutes. So beginning with the triangle at the top of the dial, every 10 minutes the number is lit, so that'll be the 10, the 20, the 30, etc. And then also moving to the center of the watch, the only thing that's lit in the center are actually the dots along the internal ring, which I think is pretty interesting. It makes for a really easy read of the indices. And then also, obviously, the Lume on the hour, minute, and second hands is also fully lit. Alright, so now looking at the case of the B-Type. The case measures 44 millimeters in diameter, a little over 14 millimeters tall, and it has 22 millimeter lugs. The shape of the case is really quite simple. It's a stainless steel case with a sort of sweeping transition into the lugs here, and it's a pretty close match to what the original pieces looked like. I think this is a little bit of a softer, generally speaking, design than the original pilot watches used in the 30s and 40s, and I think it makes it maybe a little bit more wearable on a day-to-day basis. Now moving to a side view of the watch, you can see that the watch has the lugs have a nice curvature to them, so it provides for a pretty comfortable wear. You also have here the signed crown. This is a diamond style crown with coining along the outside. The watch also can be purchased for the same price with an onion crown. Then moving here to the back, you see the back of the case is a screw down, signed here with a Nav Beer 2 logo, as well as indicates that it's Swiss made, stainless steel. That's an automatic movement, and then it has a sapphire crystal. Alright, now showing you a shot of the B-type on wrist. I find the watch to be quite comfortable to wear. As I mentioned, it's a 44mm, which is on the larger side. I also happen to have a bit larger wrist, 7.5 inches, so it fits me well. I think that it would probably fit well on most wrists. Regardless, pilots tend to be sort of on the larger side, and that's sort of the style, so I think that makes sense. It's comfortable to wear. The crown sort of doesn't stick you too much here when moving your wrist. Shown here, we have it on the brown leather strap with double rivets that the watch is advertised and sold with. It's a heavier leather strap. You know, it's the summer months now here in New York, so it's not really the strap that I wear it most with, because it's a little uncomfortable at times when it's really hot out, but I think aesthetically it sort of hits the mark, and it is a really nice strap. You can see here that it has the stainless steel hardware throughout, and it's the signed Steinhart logo on the buckle. And now I'll let you see what it looks like on another strap that Steinhart makes, actually. I purchased this watch, and they actually accidentally sent me it with a different color brown strap, which I think is really nice, and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so just real quick, I just wanted to show you the B-type on this other Steinhart strap I received. It's a bit of a simpler chocolate brown, I guess you might call it, leather strap. Again, I've sort of swapped hardware here, so it's got the same signed Steinhart logo buckle. But it's got this very nice sort of off-white stitching, nice dark brown leather, and I just think it looks really nice on this watch. Alright, just real quickly, we wanted to show you the B-type on a couple nylon nados. These are Maritac nylon nados, one green and one brown. I think that this just really is my preferred way of wearing this watch. I think it sort of brings out the blue in the hands, and I think it just makes it a much more comfortable wear, especially in warmer weather. So here it is on this military green NATO, and we can actually just kind of move it over here on the brown. You can see what that looks like. Alright, so there you have the Steinhart Nav BR2 B-type. I think it's a really smart purchase for someone who's into traditional pilot watches. It's a faithful recreation of the originals distributed to the German military in the 30s and 40s. It's got a really outstanding build quality, sapphire crystal, ETA 2824-2, some limited water resistance, but generally speaking a really nice package. And not to mention the fact that, you know, ETA movements are going to get a lot more expensive in the future, so for a watch like this coming in at about $400 US, it's really a great steal. And of course, as we've mentioned before, Steinhart has a really great reputation for making high quality pieces, and that's been our experience thus far. So make sure to check out the full review with photos, and make sure to follow Worn and Wound on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, pretty much everywhere else on the internet. Thanks so much.